Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another of these Jie Zhi Toys figures, and this time we finally have ourselves a dinosaur. As you can see, we've got the Oviraptor, and that's pretty darn cool because we really do not get very many figures for this species, so it's definitely exciting to see one, especially a newer feathered version released by anyone, but it's also just exciting to see a dinosaur released by this company because, you know, primarily it seems as though they mostly focus on other type of creatures like prehistoric mammals and stuff like that. But again, actually, that's funny that I say that because so far nothing that I've reviewed from them has been a prehistoric mammal, but you'll see in the next review of them that they do have quite a few in their range. But you can see, starting here in the head sculpt, the Oviraptor looks pretty good. You've got a nice bluish tone for the primary body color. We have a yellow eye, which is sloppily painted, but because the coloration, again, is so different from the primary body color, it really pops. You can also see the beak and everything. The crest, it all looks pretty nice. We've got a nice dark orangish tone up here. We have the nostrils and everything, and some nice texturing to the beak. But what is cool is the fact that up here we actually have a dark wash, but that dark wash is present through the entire body, which does help to amp up the detail, especially in the feathers, but you can see it here in the beak and the crest and everything looking pretty good. When you come here to the front and we kind of try to get inside the mouth, my camera doesn't focus, there is a tongue. There we go. The tongue sculpted out in there, painted with a reddish tone of color. I don't know if we're going to get... No, there's nothing up there on the inside of the mouth, unfortunately. On the upper side, they didn't include any detail or anything. No coloration either. It's just a black. So that's a little depressing. They really didn't bother trying to give us any sort of details up there on the top. But as you move back into the head, again, you do pick up the nice feather detail. We have the nice bluish tone, but again, we have that dark wash. But as you move down, you actually can see like some reddish tones and stuff popping up here and there as you move through. It definitely has a very emu-like feathering to it, very kind of scruffy, shaggy feathers. We also have a reddish tone that actually moves down along the underside of the throat and then down along the underside of the figure itself. And again, you can see that we have that nice dark wash at play, or maybe it was the base coat and they put the other coloration over the base coat of a black. I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely does do a good job of really bringing out the detail on the figure. There's also a random spot right here that looks to be like glue or something on the back. Well, don't look like that's coming off right now. We'll have to get to that at some point. But as we move down into the arms, what's interesting is look at how nice the plumage looks as you lead down. You again start out with those scruffier feathers, but as you lead down, you get much more traditional style feathering. And again, you have that nice dark tone there at play with the blue over top, and it really helps to show off the fine detail of the feathers. And then you again have that reddish tone here on the outer edge of those feathers, which does have a bit of a shine to it. But what is fun is the figure actually has articulated arms. Now, they don't go super far. That's about as far forward as they seem to go, and that's about as far back as they go because they kind of get stopped with the foot. I don't know, maybe we can get them back a little bit further if we put them outside the leg. But that will give us a chance to kind of see the hand and everything there on the inside of the figure. It looks okay. Again, grayish tone with a dark wash there as well. You can't really see the arm. Like the arm actually disappears as you lead up. So it's basically just like the palm, and then you lead into the wing, and there's no actual arm. Is it the same way over here? Yes, absolutely. So it's basically, in a way, trying to make it look like the arm is completely obscured with feathers, but because that's not there, it's so thin and so awkward looking. Also, the claws are not painted on the hands, which is upsetting, but you can see the actual hand sculpt does look fairly decent overall. It's just, the missing claw paint is definitely upsetting, but you can, of course, articulate the other arm as well. The one thing about the figure, though, is it's probably best to keep it like that because the arms actually help to balance it. Once you move the arms up, I noticed again the balance is severely off then, so the arms are pretty essential for its balance. But as you lead back into the stomach, you can again see the mixtures of blues and reds. I like how the red fairly nicely transitions up and just kind of slowly disappears before we get up to the more vibrant blues in the back of the figure. As we continue to lead along, you've got again some more scruffy feathers here on the back of the thigh leading out, again leading down the thigh. You have almost a little bit more of a traditional style feathering again before you lead down into the skin texture of the leg. The skin texture in the leg is really quite generic. It's nothing really all that impressive overall, but it looks okay for what it is. You've got some nicely sculpted toes. The claws as well do have a little bit of a genuine sharp look to them, kind of, but they don't unfortunately have any paintwork. Again, you can see there is a dew claw present on the figure, but again, no actual paintwork for it. As you lead back up and you lead out into the tail, you can see again those scruffy feathers pretty much stop almost dead as you lead down into the tail, and they still remain kind of scruffy, but not quite as fluffy, if that makes any sense. They become a lot thinner and a lot more calm, I guess you could say. But as you lead down, you do have a really nice display of plumage out here on the tail of the Oviraptor as well. Again, with some really nice orangish tones kind of outlining the outer edge. And again, that dark tone there at play really helping to highlight and show off all of the detail of the feather detail. And you can see the orange here again on the underside as well. As you lead back up, you lead into the body, and again you have mixtures of blacks and reds here for the underside of the Oviraptor. And if we turn the figure around, you're going to see pretty much the same thing. The head is fairly straightforward, so you're not going to see a whole lot of difference as far as the pose. The biggest difference being the positioning of the leg as it's walking along. You can see this leg is about to pick up off of the ground, but again, everything looks really quite nice, honestly, for what it is. You can also see the tail leads down. It is a pretty fun looking figure and a fairly nicely sculpted Oviraptor as a whole. Again, it would be actually a really fun one to acquire and repaint looking like the Jurassic World Dominion version, because that dinosaur from that film did not get much love for some reason, so this would be a fun repaint for it. But as far as the size goes, not only is it an Oviraptor, it's a pretty sizable Oviraptor. It's pretty funny that we don't get them very often, but now I knocked it over. But when we do get them, it's actually kind of decently sized. I think I'll turn it this way to try to measure. It'll just be easier. So for a length from the tail to the beak, about 8.5 inches or 21.5 centimeters. And then for a height, about 4 3/4 inches or around 12 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Jie Zhi Toys Oviraptor, and you can see again it does have a pretty good size to it, honestly. Definitely very nicely sized in the grand scheme of things for such a small species of dinosaur. They did give us a pretty impressively sized figure for it. And I don't feel like we need very many Oviraptor comparisons, because the only other Oviraptors I can even think of off the top of my head would be like this one and the Schleich version, which is very similar in size to the Papo version, which we have here. And you can clearly see that this Oviraptor is significantly larger than both of those. There is also the Star Ace Oviraptor, which I actually feel like this one had some inspiration from as far as the colors and everything, because that one also had a bluish color and kind of a similar pose. But that one would be significantly larger than this Oviraptor. So when it comes to finding an Oviraptor in a similar size, I don't really have any. There are also the older and quite iconic Safari Ltd Oviraptors, which you can see here again, significantly smaller, but a little bit closer than you would find with like the Schleich and Papo version. Although there is also a Collect A version, but that one is super tiny as well. But again, as you can see, this is probably going to be one of the bigger Oviraptor figures you'll find. And when it comes to feathered species from the same brand, we also have the Jie Zhi Toys Brontornis here next to the Oviraptor, which you can see the Brontornis is a little bit bigger, but not by a whole lot. And for another Jie Zhi Toys comparison, we also have their Caprasuchus here next to the Oviraptor, which you can see again, pretty similar in a way in a size, but obviously more length with the Caprasuchus and more height with the Oviraptor. And here is a comparison that is something that many people have that probably watch my channel. We have a Mattel Velociraptor, which, as you can see, the Oviraptor is just a little bit bigger than the Mattel Velociraptor. So this brand new Jie Zhi Toys Oviraptor figure is pretty cool, honestly. It's not the greatest figure in the world, and I wouldn't even say it's the best version of an Oviraptor out there, but it is a fairly nice looking version, and if you actually took some time and care to repaint it, I feel like you could give this a pretty elegant look overall, because it does have some nice fine detail throughout. Some of the feather detail is slightly generic as you move through the body with like the emu-like feathering. It doesn't look super impressive, but then you've got some other areas of the feathering like the plumage on the tail or out there on the arms, and it does look a lot more impressive. The overall sculpt is fairly nice and natural. It's just kind of walking along. One downside, though, to it is the fact that it doesn't have great balance if you move the arms. And the articulated arms were a nice touch, but it's just unfortunate that when you do move the arms, the dinosaur completely loses its balance. So the arms being articulated, they don't really help much as far as posability unless you have a way to prop it up. But the coloration of it is okay. Again, it's a little bit sloppy as far as the application, but it's not terrible. I wish it had painted claws. I feel like that's something that could have improved the figure overall. But for the most part, they gave it a fairly flashy but naturalistic coloration. And again, the way that they've applied like dry brushing and washes and stuff definitely helps to make the detail pop in a fairly realistic way. So overall, it's definitely a fun figure, and I would say worth picking up. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to exactly where you can purchase it. So check that link, pick it up if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.